It's only a work trip. That's what she told me, standing in the doorway with her suitcase half-zipped, the handle of her carry-on sticking up like a taunt. She smiled when she said it, that casual smile she used whenever she wanted to dismiss my questions, as silly, as if I was being paranoid for even asking. Just meetings, dinners, presentations. I'll be back before you know it. She kissed me quickly, almost absent-mindedly before heading out the door, and I told myself not to read into it. Not to overthink the way she avoided eye contact, not to notice how she'd packed her favorite dress, the one she hadn't worn for me in months. But lies have a smell, don't they? They hang in the air, faint but heavy, like smoke after a fire. And that night, as I sat alone in the apartment, scrolling through our old photos to numb the ache in my chest, I told myself it really was just a work trip. That she was tired, stressed, focused on her career, that the late nights and short answers were nothing more than pressure at the office. And then the next morning the roses arrived. I was halfway through making coffee when the buzzer rang. I didn't expect anyone. When I opened the door, there was the delivery guy, holding a massive bouquet, red roses, lush and heavy, tied with a satin ribbon. I frowned, thinking maybe they were for a neighbor, but the card had her name on it. Her name, addressed right here. I set them on the table, my stomach twisting as I opened the tiny envelope. Last night was magic. 3 words. That was all it took for my world to tilt. Her boss's name was signed at the bottom. His name, the man she'd sworn up and down, was just her mentor, just a guide, someone who cared about her career and nothing more. My hands shook as I read it again, as if the words might rearrange themselves into something innocent. But they didn't. The letters stayed the same, black ink on white card, roses as red as blood, sitting smugly in the vase. I couldn't breathe. I sat down hard in the chair, the card trembling between my fingers, the scent of the roses filling the room with something sickly sweet. My mind ran in 1,000 directions. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe he sent them to the wrong person. Maybe she didn't know. Maybe, but I knew. Deep down I knew. And that's when the shift happened inside me. Because there's a moment when you realize the person you've trusted most has crossed a line you can't uncross, where your heart just hardens. It stops breaking and starts calculating. I didn't call her right away. I didn't text her. Instead, I started making notes. The dates of her trip, the time the roses arrived, the name signed at the bottom of the card. Every detail etched down because I knew one day I'd need them. That night she called. Her voice was light, cheerful. Hey, just got back to the hotel. Exhausted. Long day. How are you? I stared at the roses sitting on the counter, their petals opening wider by the hour, like they were mocking me. I'm fine, I said. My voice didn't crack. I didn't mention the delivery, didn't mention I just listened, as she told me about meetings and presentations, and how tired she was. And I realized in that moment, she had no idea that the truth had already walked through the front door and placed itself in a vase on our table. For the next few days I played along. I listened to her calls, her excuses, her little updates. I asked about the food, the city, the weather. I made jokes. I said I love you at the end of each call. And every time I looked at those roses, wilting now, but still standing tall enough to remind me of what she'd done. When she came home, I had already made up my mind. She walked in the door, suitcase rolling behind her, that same casual smile plastered on her face. She kissed me, light and quick, and then froze when she saw the roses sitting on the counter. Her eyes widened, her face draining of color. Oh, she said, her voice tight. Those are from a client. They must have sent them here by mistake. A client, I repeated, my voice calm, too calm. Yeah, she said quickly, setting her suitcase down, moving closer to the flowers like she could somehow erase them with her hands. I'll call and sort it out. Don't worry about it. But I had the card. I held it up, let her see the signature, let her read the words. Last night was magic, I said softly. She froze, her mouth opened, closed, opened again, but no words came out. Her eyes darted from me to the card, to the flowers and back. I didn't shout. I didn't rage. I just stood there, watching her crumble under the weight of the truth she thought she'd hidden. And that was when I knew. This wasn't going to be a fight. This wasn't going to be another screaming match that ended with empty promises. This was going to be a reckoning. Because she wasn't just lying to me anymore. She was lying to herself. The days that followed blurred together. She tried to explain, to spin, to backtrack. It didn't mean anything. He misunderstood. It was just one night, each excuse weaker than the last, each word digging her deeper. I didn't believe any of it. Not anymore. Instead, I started planning. Quietly, carefully, because if she thought roses and whispered words would stay buried in the dark, she was about to learn what happens when the truth blooms in the light. And she had no idea I was about to bring it all crashing down. The roses sat there for days after she returned, their petals darkening and curling at the edges, but still holding just enough beauty to mock me every time I passed them. She tried to move them once, said they were taking up too much space on the counter. I told her to leave them. I wanted them there. I wanted her to see them every morning, when she poured her coffee. Every night when she reached for a glass of water, she'd glance at them, jaw tight, and I'd pretend not to notice. But I noticed everything. For a week, she acted as though nothing had happened. She was sweeter, clingier, reaching for my hand when we sat on the couch, kissing me more often, cooking dinners she hadn't made in years. Anyone else would have seen a devoted girlfriend, trying to make up for lost time. But me, I saw a woman scrambling to cover her track. It was in the way she looked at me when she thought I wasn't watching. Fear flickering in her eyes, guilt weighing on her shoulders. I didn't confront her right away, not because I was afraid, but because timing is everything. Exploding in private would have let her cry her way out of it. Twist the story, spin another web of lies. No, I wanted her exposed. I wanted her stripped of the mask she wore so effortlessly. Her company's annual networking gala was coming up, a big event, full of clients, executives, her colleagues. She had been talking about it for weeks, saying how important it was for her career, how much it meant that I be there with her. She needed to show stability at home, she said, because the higher-ups loved seeing that kind of thing. Stability. The word almost made me laugh. I agreed, of course. I smiled, told her I'd wear my best suit, but I'd be proud to stand by her side. Inside, though, I knew what was coming. The night of the gala, she looked like a vision. A sleek black dress that clung to her like a secret, hair pinned up, diamond earrings catching the light. She smiled at me in the mirror as she adjusted her necklace. "You look incredible," I said, my voice steady. "You're not so bad yourself," she teased, brushing a hand over my jacket. Her tone was light, but her eyes betrayed her. They were searching, desperate to see if I still believed her lies. The venue was lavish. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, waiters weaving through the crowd with champagne flutes. She introduced me to everyone with a polished smile, her hand tucked into the crook of my arm. To anyone watching, we looked perfect, a rising star in the company, her loyal partner at her side. And then he appeared, her boss, the sender of the roses. The man who thought it was appropriate to write "Last night was magic" on a card he signed with a flourish. He approached us with a grin, his suit tailored, his confidence radiating. "So glad you both could make it," he said, shaking my hand like we were old friends. His eyes flickered to her, and I caught it, the smallest glance, the kind of glance that carries a history no one else is supposed to see. She laughed too quickly, a little too loud, her cheeks flushing. "Of course," she said, "I wouldn't miss it." That was it. That was all I needed. The proof wasn't just in the roses, it was in the way her voice softened when she spoke to him, the way his eyes lingered on her like she belonged to him. I waited until dinner, waited until everyone was seated, until glasses were raised for speeches and toasts. The CEO spoke, then a client, then her boss. He raised his glass, his voice booming as he praised his team, his family. He looked at her as he said it, and she smiled, radiant, playing her role. When he sat, I stood. The scrape of my chair drew attention. Heads turned. She looked up at me, startled, her hand tightening on her glass. "What are you doing?" she whispered, her voice sharp. I smiled at her, then at the room. "I'd like to propose a toast," I said, my voice calm, steady, carrying just enough edge to draw silence. "To honesty," I began, "to trust. To the kind of loyalty that isn't just for show at galas like this, but the kind of loyalty that holds strong when no one's watching." People nodded, murmured their agreement. Glasses lifted. My girlfriend's eyes went wide, panic flashing across her face. And yet I continued, reaching into my jacket pocket. Sometimes loyalty is nothing more than a lie dressed in a black dress and a fake smile. I pulled out the card. The very card that came with the roses. I held it up so the room could see. "Last night was magic," I read aloud, my voice ringing clear. Signed by her boss. Delivered to our home while she was on her so-called work trip. The silence was deafening. Forks froze mid-air. Eyes darted between me, her and... She shot up from her seat, her face pale, her voice trembling. "Stop it, please. This isn't the place." But I wasn't finished. "She told me it was only a work trip," I said, my voice sharper now. "She told me I was paranoid, that I was overthinking." But when roses arrived the next morning with a card signed by the man sitting right here, "It's not paranoia, it's proof." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone dropped their glass, the shatter echoing across the hall. Her boss shifted uncomfortably, his face reddening, stammering. That's not appropriate." But I cut him off. "You're right," I said. "It's not appropriate. Not for a boss to send roses to his employee, calling their night together magic. Not for a woman to come home to her partner and lie through her teeth about where she's been. And certainly not for either of you to think you could hide it forever." She collapsed back into her chair, sobbing now, her hands covering her face. Her boss tried to speak again, but the damage was done. The room was buzzing with whispers, judgment heavy in every stare. I set the card on the table, slid it toward her with finality. "You humiliated me when you thought you could hide this. Tonight, I'm simply returning the favor." And then I walked out. Her cries followed me, her chair scraping back as she stumbled after me, heels clicking against the marble. "Please," she sobbed, grabbing my arm outside the venue. Mascara streaked her face, her voice breaking. "Please, don't do this. I'll fix it. I'll end it. It didn't mean anything, I swear." I turned to her, my voice low but firm. "It meant enough for him to call it magic. It meant enough for you to risk everything we had. Don't stand here and tell me it meant nothing." She fell to her knees, sobbing, clutching at my sleeve. People streamed past us, staring, whispering, shaking their heads. Her boss stayed inside, cornered by whispers and stares, his reputation cracking in real time. And me, I walked away. The fallout was immediate. Word spread through her company like wildfire. Clients pulled back. Her reputation sank, and within weeks, her boss was resigning to spend more time with his family. She tried calling me for days, weeks, sometimes begging, sometimes raging. "You ruined me," she screamed in one voicemail. "You destroyed everything." But I didn't ruin her. She ruined herself. I just gave the truth, a microphone. And as for me, I left her behind. Roses, long wilted. Card tucked away in a drawer as a reminder. A reminder that sometimes the lies we think are hidden bloom in the open. And when they do, they choke the liar instead of the betrayed. Because in the end, she wasn't mine to lose. She'd given herself away long before the roses arrived. And I was finally free.